Going to be a lot of love in the air, a lot of warm hearts, good cheer. Everybody happy and maybe a little sad because you'll relive all the memories. You'll think about all the things that Albert Pujols and what Yadier Molina have done wearing the birds and the bat. You'll remember your personal experiences at the stadium. Maybe it's with your own parents, or maybe then your children. Maybe now it's with a couple of your grandkids. Maybe it's you and your brother. Maybe it's you and your sister. Maybe it's you and your best friends. All those nights at the ballpark and, being treated to watching a great team for a long time. One of the most very successful in the business. And, for a long time, Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols had a lot to do with it. Other players too, but these two guys are sure, baseball Hall of Famers, and I think they're kind of in a special category. So I think this weekend's about honoring them and celebrating their careers, but I also think it's about other things that are very much connected. I think it's you're going to see, again, this special relationship that exists between the Cardinals and their fans and the gratitude that binds them together. And it's going to be about not only celebrating these two legends, two guys that can stand with, Stan Musial, Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, Ozzie, Ted Simmons, Ken Boyer, Rogers Hornsby. Whoever you want to put on that list, you can do it. But Molina and Pujols stand with them. These are truly two iconic players on a franchise that has had no shortage of iconic players, and they're right there too. So we're celebrating their careers, but we're also celebrating a very special time and place in St. Louis Cardinals baseball history. Because I think, especially for maybe younger people, they kind of forget about the gaps. And that's why I laugh when, there's always somebody, on a little bit of a tangent, for the newspaper or somewhere else, and they keep talking about, well, the Cardinals haven't won a World Series since 2011. That's a long time. Yeah, it is. I'd like to see them win a World Series. But I think the fact they haven't won one since 2011, hey, man, call me soft, but I don't think I'd be calling Amnesty International on that. That's just me. So people forget that before Bill DeWitt bought this team, the Cardinals hadn't made the playoffs 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. There was no playoffs in 94, but they wouldn't have made it. And they didn't make it in 95. So that would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years without even making the playoffs. And now that's why I was laughing at all these people. Well, Bernie, I don't care about making the playoffs. It's about winning the World Series, Okay. When I was writing columns for the Post-Dispatch during all that time, the baseball was generally pretty bad. There was no investment from the top. They never could put together a great pitching staff. It was just bodies in, bodies out. The attendance started to drop. Not a lot of good things were happening. And there were some good players, but not a lot of good things were happening. And, so now it's like a crime or something because they haven't won a World Series since 2011. I just think it's hysterical. Anyway, so DeWitt takes it over, and they're doing fine. And they have a really good first year, 96. They get back into the postseason. They should have been in the World Series. They blew a 3-1 series lead to the Braves in the NLCS. LaRussa's the manager. Jocketty's the general manager. They had it going on. Now, they had their pitching staff torn up. And I think they missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. That was very disappointing. But starting in 2000, it began streaking. And in 2001, who showed up. And then in 2004, they call up this rookie catcher, Yadier Molina. And I just want to go through this. It's like I don't want to talk about numbers, but you have to tell the story, the impact that they made as teammates 2004 through 2011, and then again in 2022. But when they were teammates between 2004 and 2011, the Cardinals competed in more postseason games than any team in the majors, and they had the most postseason victories than any team in the majors. And now that their win totals in the postseason could increase this year. We'll wait and see. They'll do everything they can. When they were teammates between 2004 and 2011, not just – I think the fact that you played in more postseason games than anybody and won more than anybody, I kind of think that's pretty good. But they also won 3 National League pennants, 2 World Series championships, and they gave us 2 massive victory parades in downtown St. Louis. They even won a pennant in the old stadium and a World Series. They didn't win in the World Series, but they had a World Series games in 2004. So these guys actually were the leaders in many ways of a team that won pennants and played World Series in 2 different stadiums. That's how long they've been around, too. If you look at some of the other, they also had the second best winning percentage as teammates, 2004 through 2011 in the National League. And then if you add this year to it, it's still gonna end up around the second best over those 9 seasons they've been together. As Cardinals, right? This is only Cardinals, right?
Okay.
Pujols and Molina have combined for 11 Gold Gloves, 9 by Molina. 4 Platinum Gloves, both by Molina. All 4 Molina. 19 All-Star Game honors, 7 Silver Sluggers, 6 for Pujols. 2 Roberto Clemente awards. Pujols was a Rookie of the Year. He won a batting title, was a 3-time National League MVP, received MVP votes. His first 11 seasons as a Cardinal, he received MVP votes, and he won 3. And he should have won 5. But anyway, Molina, during this time, 2004 through 2011, and actually beyond that a little bit, he earned MVP votes in 5 seasons, and he had 2 top 4 finishes in the voting. So if you combine the 2 guys as teammates, they have garnered MVP votes in 16 seasons. Now, Molina got some of those when Pujols was in Anaheim, but I'm just making the point of what they've meant, mostly together but also separately. So those 2 guys as Cardinals have they garnered most valuable player votes in 16 seasons combined, and they finished in the top 4 in the voting 11 seasons. I mean, that's really like I was saying to someone today. I said, look, man, it's not Ruth and Gehrig. But shucks, man, I mean, this is pretty impressive. You take it all in. All right, one more thing with numbers, but they're fun numbers. All right, as Cardinals, they have combined for 642 home runs, 4,318 hits. As Cardinals.
Wow.
642 home runs, 4,318 hits. 1,540 extra base hits, 2,408 RBI, 2,104 runs scored, 7,164 total bases, and the two of them together as Cardinals reached base and counting because they're still playing. They reached base 6,156 times. Like I said, is it Ruth and Gehrig? No. But this has been a pretty fantastic duo for one franchise, to say the least. All that success individually and all that success for the franchise. I mean, this is an extraordinary partnership that they've had as St. Louis Cardinals, even with the 10-year gap when Albert wasn't here. This body of work between them is just phenomenal. And the team has been a great benefactor of all of this. So I just can't say enough about him. And also I can't say enough about how much fun and how satisfying and what a privilege it was to cover these guys.
There is going to come a time when I'm going to go, wow, I got to see every part of that. There's a little bit of sunk in right now, but not completely. And, you talked about the gap again. What we're seeing this year is almost like it I feel at times, Bernie, it's like, well, they never left and everything's the same. It's
Right.
not, but you have that feeling of, well, yeah, they've been here the whole time, even though they haven't. It's just everything just continues to mesh. The magic is back. They just show up, and there they are. There they are, and there's the magic. There's that aura that's around whatever they do, whatever they're touching. It's working, and it's unlike anything we're ever going to see. It'll probably not hit me till next year, at some point, maybe a month into the season, where I go, yeah, this is what it's going to look like without number 4 behind the plate, and number 5's not around either. It's different, but you won't notice the difference until at least for me, until I get about a month into it. But all those numbers are incredible, and yes, we'll never see it again.
Yeah, just to realize,
You know?
it's just all the things that just individually they were able to do, all these awards, and because Pujols got cheated in a variety of ways. He should have won, I believe, 3 more MVPs, but I would settle for 2. He got cheated out of 2. He should have won it in 2006, and he should have won it in 2010. And then we can argue about Barry Bonds. But again, listen, the stats that Bonds put up were valid, and I have to recognize that even if I don't like it. But Pujols should have had at least 2 more MVPs. And Pujols should have had a lot more Gold Gloves. There have been great pieces written in the last few years about, not in Anaheim. We ain't talking about that. But when he was young and he was in his prime in St. Louis, the dude was a hell of a defensive player. And the metric systems love him. The metric systems went haywire over how good he was. So he deserved a hell of a lot more than 2 Gold Gloves. You can double that, maybe add 1 more, and then you're in the ballpark. So both of these guys were extraordinary, defensive players, and neither one of them had great speed, but they were really smart and effective base runners. They were both leaders, and you had Yadier Molina running the pitching staff for all intents and purposes, pitch selection, psychology, understanding hitters, positioning the defense. It's like having a manager behind the plate. People will say, well, it's like having a coach behind the plate. It's like having a manager behind the plate because he's doing all these things during the game. Hey, you got to shift the infield. You got to shift the outfielders. You guys are too far over there to the right. You got to bring that back a little. You got to square that up. And his pitch selection acumen is legendary. And I was looking at this again today because I wanted to make sure. Since Molina came to the big leagues in 2004, and he's been a continuous presence behind the plate. The Cardinals have the second best ERA in baseball. And, all right, let's think about that. Every single pitcher has changed many times over. He's played for La Russa. He's played for Matheny. He's played for Schilt. Now he's playing for Marmol. So that's 4 different managers. He's had 2 different general managers. He's had several different pitching coaches. And he's the one constant. He's the one constant since 2004. Second best ERA in baseball by a franchise. And yet you have people. I got an email from somebody I know and respect and said, like, are you really sure he's a Hall of Famer? It's like, wow. I'm just going to right now withhold comment. I'll just say, wow. In addition to so many other things, he has played in more winning postseason games than any player in the history of the National League. But I guess he was just a passenger on that bus, huh? He wasn't driving it or anything. So anyway, these have been extraordinary careers, and for all the awards they've had, they could have won more. They should have won more. I mean, Brad Ausmus got the Gold Glove over a young Molina in a year where Brad Ausmus, I think the number was, and you're all going to laugh, 72 people tried to steal on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he threw out 12. Oh. And he got the managers and the player and the coaches. That's who voted then. They voted for him over Molina.
Oh, 12 out of 72. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was a piece written at Baseball Prospectus recently about Pujols. and just how no catcher has ever suppressed the running game like he has. No catcher ever. And Russell Carlton, who wrote it, it's a subscription piece. I wish I could share it with all of you. Russell Carlton is a really respected baseball analyst. He was just in awe of what he came up with in his research. I mean, even now they're afraid to run against him. You know,
they still are. Yeah.
And this is a broken down Yachty. Let's be honest. But they're still afraid of him. And yet I got people every now and then asking me, I'm not sure if he's a Hall of Famer. Okay.
Oh boy.
You need to go cover another sport, you know?
Because
you obviously don't understand baseball.
Try lacrosse, boys. It might.
Yeah, there you go. That's a
good
good one, man. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
You know what I do want to know? We're never. They're not going to tell us today or anytime till the season's over. I really want to know what was the tip for those two when they kept picking off guys at first base.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that too. The secrets.
No one has ever gotten close to coming up with what that was. But it happened so often when they were going right. It was like you just expected it. This guy, he's going to get hung out to dry. Bang. There he is, picked off first again. And I just want to know what the tip was at some point. It's just the nerd side of me of the baseball going, what was it? Was it the way you moved your finger, the way you held your glove? Did you just, scratch your eye? I don't know. I just want to know what that was. Because the rest of the world didn't know what it was either.
Well, the runners didn't either, right?
Right. There were so many guys. You just like, go sit down.
They eventually caught on to them, but so they weren't picking off quite as many. But they picked off a lot overall. Yes. They really did. So anyway, I look forward to watching all this baseball. Boy, it's a busy, busy sports weekend. There's some great college football games tomorrow. You got the Fighting Illini going up to Wisconsin. They're a 7-point dog. Thank you very much. I'll take the points. Mizzou's a 29-point underdog at home to Georgia. And Kent State actually stayed within 17 points. The final score, 17-point margin, Georgia and Kent State. So Kirby Smart, first got an SEC game on the road. They didn't play up to their standards last week, so that's going to be an angry bunch down there in Faurot Field. So can Mizzou cover a 29-point spread? I mean, they can. It all depends whether, no pun intended, Kirby Smart calls off the dogs. That's really basically what it comes down to. So I wouldn't touch it because of that, because it just depends what kind of mood Kirby's in, whether he'll be merciful. I don't know. If he's in a bad mood, he might not be.
I'm there with you. I kind of expect. I'm expecting 50-plus points on the board from Georgia, because they're thinking national championship and impress voters. They're not worried about. We don't want to embarrass our SEC brethren.
Kirby Smart loved that result last week where they had to look. They won by 17 points, but Kent State's surprisingly stubborn about hanging in there.
Mm-hmm.
And what an embarrassment! Again, another one it would be for Mizzou, where a Kent State can actually play Georgia respectably, but Mizzou gets run out of its, as they say in hockey, gets run out of its own building.
I agreed 100%. At least if they were competitive, you go, okay, progress. But I don't see it. Oh.
Hey, before we take a break, and when we do come back, I do want to talk about college football. We're going to have Rick Hummel at 5:30, but I'm going to make some picks next. Just sort of lay some games out for you to help you make your own picks. You're on your own, but some of them I'll say who I like, and I got a mixed record. This past week it wasn't great. It was okay. 2 weeks ago was pretty damn good. And so who knows about this week, but I want to take another stab at it because I love that. I just love looking at games and trying to figure out what's going to happen.